Ruselli Northern supports upstate New York construction with over 400 employees, 250 trucks, 9 ready-mix plants, 4 blacktop plants, and 40 aggregate mines. But their most important number is your bottom line. Contact them today to see why Ruselli Northern has been the choice for contractors and project managers across upstate New York since 1929.
Welcome in, everybody, to Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo, Kyle Evans here with you. The baseball season is officially over. The Yankees losing in 5 games to the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Series record of 4-1 in that regard. Lot to get to, not a ton of positives in that sense. And we'll cover a lot of bases, Kyle. Let's kind of start here, and just from the 10,000-foot view, whatever you want to call it, instant reaction following the loss last night that wrapped up the season.
Yeah, embarrassing. I still can't believe that 3 major league players couldn't make routine plays. It's just, I keep just replaying, especially the Judge fly ball. That's Aaron Judge, who, previously made a great catch earlier in the game. You can say the lights got him, but how about the sun? He's always caught the balls in the sun. It's inexcusable. Volpe can't make a throw to third when it's to his right anyways. He has to spike it in the dirt. And then everyone's going after Garrett Cole for not covering first. But the more and more I look at it, I hated the effort from Rizzo. It's almost like he just knew the score in his mind. He knew he thought he wasn't going to get there. And he was okay with giving up the run, and they would just, get the next out. He could have, it's the World Series, he could have dove to the bag, and reached. Mm-hmm. He could have done anything to lay his body on the line, for an out in that situation. And he didn't do it. And another thing is, the Yankees had a lot of opportunities to tack on runs. They were awful with runners in scoring position. And the Dodgers bullpen, was emptying. They were going to use everyone. That's why Walker Buehler pitched the 9th. And you're telling me they couldn't tack on? The base is loaded twice, first and second, 1 out, and you can't add a damn run? It's so painful, but I'm actually glad for it to be over, because it seems like this whole series was just basically that. Aside from that game 4, it just seemed like it was 4-2 in game 2 and 3, but it just seemed like the Yankees were really never in the game. They were outplayed. Credit to the Dodgers. They took advantage. They're very good. Their bullpen stepped up big for the most part. But, yeah, I know it's still a steep hill to climb, but if you force a Game 6 back in LA, you never know. They had so much momentum the way that game started. Everyone seemed to, starting to click offensively, and then you just gave it away by just not making routine plays. I think that's the most difficult part for me today. I would have been okay if they lost Game 6 in LA, because they fought. But to lose in this fashion, it's inexcusable, and I'm not going to forget it. It's been 15 years since they won the damn World Series. It's inexcusable.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, for a moment it was a bit of a gut punch, I think, in the grand scheme of it, right? But they didn't lose the series in Game 5 to me, in this sense, right? Game 5 was pretty much the perfect encapsulation of the season, in retrospect. And I don't want to exactly do pinpointing just yet, but it's kind of hard not to, right? Because we talked a lot, more or less, about Gleyber Torres all year, in this sense. But you brought it up with 3 guys who we didn't, or 4 guys rather, really, that we didn't talk about all year in this sense. But, like you said, more or less the fundamentals of the game just forgotten about, and there was a lot of that in this series, to be fair. even on both sides. It's not like, in all fairness, it's not like the Dodgers played the cleanest of all series either. Like, in the opportunities, like you mentioned, right, Kyle, were there for the Yankees to kind of capitalize. So let's work ourselves back from Game 1 and get to Game 5 last night. Game 1, kind of, unfortunately, I think, just set the tone for the series more than anything else. Tight game through and through for the most part. And then it just, at this point, gets encapsulated right by the Freddie Freeman walk-off grand slam. And like I said, to me, it just sets the tone for the series at that point. A lot gets lost in how good Garrett Cole was in Game 1. I think similarly to how it's going to get lost maybe in translation to Game 5. By the end of the day, it doesn't matter when you don't win the last game of the year. So that's kind of out the window. Game 2 just was, it felt flat to me, if I'm being completely honest. Get to Game 3, home turf for the Yankees, and, you know, again, I don't think it's not necessarily that they came out flat, but the main storyline through the first 4 games, Yankees just couldn't get out of their own way in the first inning, no matter what. I think yesterday was the first inning, first inning that, you know, there was no runners on base, period. No runs came across, anything in the for the Dodgers in that series. So tone setting the whole series was just bad for the Yankees. A lot of just couldn't get out of their own way in that sense early on and kind of put themselves, frankly, on the back foot more than anything else.
Yeah, the crazy thing is they only were outscored by a run in the entire series. But the problem was they were 9 for 45 with runners in scoring position. That's a 200 batting average. Dodgers got the big hits in the moments they needed it, and the Yankees didn't, aside from that one game, you know, when they blew it open late. I would say they had big hits, you know, to pull away. But, yeah, it was just I said it before the postseason started. It seems like every year with this team, it's always the offense that is the issue. And yes, they did put up runs last night. You know, and even re-grabbed the lead after the Dodgers tied it, which is great to see. But like I said, they still had so many more opportunities to attack on runs. And yeah, the bullpen wasn't sharp last night. Tommy Kahnle definitely was not good at all. But the bullpen is the reason why they were even in this Game 5. I mean, you look 4-2 back-to-back games, you know, the bullpen came in early and kept it there for the offense just to, you know, go do something. And yes, they did have ninth inning rallies that both fell short, so it's not like they went down in order. But they had to get the big hit, and they never really did in the games they lost. And that's the difference. This series definitely could be Yankees 3-2 right now. They close out Game 1 and win last night. That's 3-2. Because you're including the Game 4, obviously, the 11-4 win. But then also maybe the Dodgers would have been more aggressive with their bullpen in Game 4 had the Yankees not been up, or had they not been up 3-0. But either way, they're either trailing 3-2 right now or they're up 3-2, and the series shouldn't be over, and it is. And a lot of people are, I know a lot of fans are mad like I am and don't accept this, but then there's other fans that are accepting this, which is funny to me because it's been 15 years since they made it. And if Juan Soto walks away and they have a completely, you know, like a lot of changes are going to be made, people just assume they're going to get back in the next couple of years. Like, what? You got to the World Series and you're okay with it? You're okay with losing after it's been this long? No, you shouldn't be okay. And yes, again, I know it still was a steep hill to climb if they went back to LA and they needed to win both. But you can't lose in this fashion. Like, the Aaron Judge drop will, like, be on replay forever. Like, we'll never forget this. That it all started with an Aaron Judge drop ball in center. So, yeah, I mean, you see me, I'm not wearing any Yankee stuff today. Like, I'm just, it's hard to keep, it's like a relationship. Why would you be with somebody when the same thing keeps happening over and over? Well, that's how it is with this team. It's the same thing over and over. Yes, they finally made the World Series, but what happened? They've done the same thing they've done the last 7-8 years with Boone in the postseason. They don't hit. And a few bad fielding mistakes or errors cost them. So when is it going to change? They brought in Juan Soto to win the damn World Series, and they still don't. So if they can't win now, when are they going to win? That's my point. So why have hope? There's no hope to be had.
Yeah. I think the hope element of this we will tackle at a podcast later on down the line. It's interesting because I don't like when the Yankees were up 5-0 last night, I was just like, man, like I got a text from a couple people. I'm like, I'm not trusting any of this. Like, and you mentioned the hope side of it, right, Kyle? Like, what in that series in particular gave you hope that they were going to hold on to that lead last night?
Well, I'll tell you, Garrett.
Well,
Entering the fifth inning, Garrett Cole had not allowed a hit. He had allowed one base runner, and they had a rested bullpen because they didn't use their high leverage guys in Game 4 because they pulled away late. I was more than confident, and we knew the Dodgers bullpen was going to be. They were going to have to start using their lower leverage guys because they brought in their high leverage guys early in the game. Vessier, all Trinan early. Well, not early, but they had to use them for 37 pitches. I mean, I was confident. You're up 5-0, and you're facing some of the relievers that you should do damage to, and they had the bases loaded twice and runners on first and second with one out. I was more than confident. It was a complete meltdown. They should be definitely flying on the plane today to go to LA.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. It's just one of those things, though, where, like, I don't know, maybe this sounds like acceptance in a sense, but, like, I just go back to Game 1 and just even the mental errors that happened there, in a sense, that set up for the extra inning and the heroics of Freddie Freeman, frankly. Like Shohei Ohtani getting the third, for example, comes off of Gleyber Torres laying a ball when he should have. And I'm not saying you have to get in front of it, right? But, like, you don't nonchalant go off to the side with it, as the guy is getting himself in the scoring position. Like, it's the little stuff like that where, and it gets amplified last night, obviously, but, like, I just view it as that, where it's like, if that's happening there, then, like, it's going to show its head again. That's just how baseball works. Until you rectify the issue, that's just how it works. And I know that portion of it probably falls into a different discussion point that we'll kind of get to here probably in a minute, but, like, the team all year kind of just had this, I don't want to say nonchalant, non-serious attitude, but, like, we continuously talked a lot throughout the year, right, Kyle, of just, like, these little things that, like, pop up that, like, Gleyber misses a pop-up, or, I mean, especially, like, early on, there was, again, the base running stuff. Like, it just kept coming up at different points.
I mean, yeah, you're right about these miscues and these errors, but the ball was hit right to Aaron Judge.
Yeah. By the way, not to interrupt, but the lights excuse, I'm with you, but for a different reason. The lights behind home plate are, like, never on. Like, that's for me where I'm like, what the hell are, like, people talking about with the lights? Like,
The second ball's hit to a Gold Glove winner.
yeah.
The third ball's hit to a Gold Glove winner. I understand your point, but at the same time, this is a different circumstance. Game 1 is a tight game. It was either tied or a one-run difference. This is a 5-run lead. If Judge makes that play, that's 1 out with a runner on first. If Volpe makes that play, that's 2 outs with runners on first and second. If Rizzo makes that play, no run score. It's inexcusable the more we talk about it. These are major league players, Gold Glove winners. Like I said, Aaron Judge should be a Gold Glove winner too. Made that hell of a play in the gap. And for those three guys to be the ones that costed that inning, it's crazy to me, because if anyone, it would be Gleyber or maybe Juan Soto in right field. Maybe I would expect Juan Soto to drop a ball the way he runs out there and he takes bad routes to the ball. But for the three guys that did it, it's so crazy to think over and over again that that's how they lost. Because you get out of the inning, if Garrett Cole covers or Rizzo does beat there, it's 5-0. And again, you're still facing their relievers. They're using every guy. And if you get one big hit that next inning after getting out of that jam, we're talking about a Game 6 here. It's completely different than Game 1. I understand the Yankees were due to make a mistake, but this is different. These are right to the guys. Gleyber's was just being lazy. It was a backhand off to the side, which allowed the runner to go to third and then a sac fly. This is totally different. These balls had to be they had to be made. So that's all I'll say. I mean, I'm done going over the same point. And yeah, I don't know what else you want to say here.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things to me where I just view it as laziness catches up even in the routine, more or less, is what I'm trying to get at. And look, Aaron Judge didn't have an error all year. That was his first error last night. I mean, I don't want to do the numbers game essentially, but something like that was probably bound to happen eventually in that sense, but maybe more than likely on a throw than a soft line out. But
Yeah,
you know,
he's
either
never
way.
dropped a pop-up in his career. He has 3 career errors, and they're all throwing errors.
Yeah.
And again, this is hit right to him. No, it wasn't due. It's inexcusable. It's right to you. It's a fly ball right to you. I mean, you're a major league player. I mean, that's seriously what a little league player does. It's so inexcusable.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, but it's why we're talking about it now and not preparing for a game 6, more or less than anything else. Offensively, talked a lot about stuff in the field here. Let's talk about some offensive stuff. More or less a very middle of the road type series in my mind. Now, let's get into maybe some deeper cuts here of it. I would have preferred, it's a little bit different, but I would have preferred seeing some more lineup tweaks in a much more deeper way than just swapping out Trevino for Wells in that sense. I know when we talked Monday separately about this, Kyle, I presented a lineup that I would have just have done just for the sake of trying to wake it up sooner. And frankly, I will move Judge down to 5 in the lineup, down to 5th. Luckily, or unluckily, finally showed a little bit of signs of life with his bat, but much too little, much too late. And you can make that case about a lot of guys, frankly. You know, I know when we talked Monday about Kyle, I would have just thrown caution to the wind and put Dominguez in the lineup. I would have put Chisholm still at cleanup, but Stanton third. Like, I thought they needed to do bigger changes offensively in the lineup and just never did. Kind of stuck to what we saw, not quite, the final month of the year, but again, a bit of a MO for this team of just not really trying things until it's way too late. To me, go back to a regular season point, for example, Volpe batting leadoff and gets into this slump and stays leadoff, and it just kind of tanked it. And, excuse me, by the time, the experiment of putting Glaber in the leadoff spot happens, it's like a month down the road than what it probably should have been in the first place. And in the postseason, let alone the World Series, but the postseason in general, you got to be more, in my mind, more in the attack to make changes within the lineup to give you a better chance of winning.
Yeah, it was the July Yankees. Literally what they did in July. Starting pitching didn't give them length, was pretty much garbage aside from Cole. Carlos Rodon was just so disappointing. He's a home run machine. That's why I wouldn't have had a lot of confidence in him tomorrow night. But again, it didn't matter. At least get there and put up a fight. And yeah, it was literally July because I say they couldn't hit with runners on in July, and that's why they went 15-27 that one stretch. And yeah, they could have made lineup changes, but in all fairness, Jazz was, aside from his home run against the Royals and in this series, he was awful with runners on. I wouldn't even want him in my top 4. He was the one that killed the bases loaded rally and a first and second one out rally last night.
Yeah.
Judge definitely should have been dropped. Wells, until game 4, didn't do anything. He was 4 for 44. Yeah, a lot of guys just weren't doing anything. It's tough to really do much other than maybe drop a guy and move Stanton up. because nobody was delivering. And even Anthony Volpe, he was consistent. He was getting singles and at least getting on base, and then he broke out with that big grand slam. But again, you're not going to move him back up to a top 4 spot. Rizzo, you could have probably moved up, but it looked like the last couple nights he started to wear off a little bit. I don't know if his fingers were bothering him again. Yeah, I don't know. There just wasn't a whole lot for me that I would have done either. I know, like, now we're going to look back on it and think that that's what should have happened, but in reality, what if it did and it still didn't work? I mean...
And that's fair.
So, I don't know. No matter what, I mean, these guys, they're getting paid all this money and they're just not producing on the big stage. So, that's why they lost their offense.
One last thing I think from the series to tackle a little bit, just from the pitching side of it, I didn't necessarily hate what the Yankees opted to do rotation-wise. I don't know how much of an option they had else to kind of do. I know me and you were kind of doing some like free thinking of sorts on potential stuff. I know both on the podcast last week and then off air about, do you go Rodon technically game 2 or do you hold them until game 3 and maybe put Schmidt at 2? Stuff like that. I don't know how much of that clearly in the long run was going to make a difference, right? The only spot I personally feel like I would have maybe done something different, and again, maybe it doesn't make a difference clearly in the grand scheme of it. Could be wrong, but part of me thinks the Yankees still probably should have pushed Cole up a day. I don't know how much of a difference that actually makes. Probably none really at all. But I have a tough time with the fact that if the Yankees were to have somehow gotten to Game 7, it isn't in theory Garrett Cole but Clark Schmidt. And I just don't know if I'm on board with that. I don't know. Well, that's a lot of hindsight going on right there, but I think I would have probably pushed Cole up a day and had him gone Game 4.
Well, the wild thing is both of Garrett Cole's starts in the World Series, they lost. Obviously not his fault, Game 1. And then last night definitely wasn't his fault, 5 unearned. But I do want to say this. I do think Anthony Rizzo should have ran to first, but at the same time, Garrett Cole has to at least be closer to the bag. That is not acceptable either. But I don't know about you. You can watch this replay 100 times and even stop and freeze it in the middle. Mookie is fast. He's about halfway. Yeah. But Rizzo's in position now with his body turned.
Well,
and he
it's not even so much the turn. It's the nonchalantness of it for me. Like he went up. I would probably feel the ball off to the side the way he did, but he didn't make it. Well, I don't want to make it sound like he didn't put effort into it, right? But he looked like he just kind of let the ball come towards him as opposed to attacking it. And then, like you said, I mean, a guy like Cole's got to know to at least be heading towards first base. Like, I just don't understand in general. But I trust me, I was kind of one of the first ones I felt like that I saw being like, if you put any blame on Garrett Cole, you got to put probably equal blame on Rizzo in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, he did play it to the side, and then I waited to freeze the video so when he turned and got in position to start running, and Mookie was still, there was definitely still a chance Rizzo could have gotten there. And like I said, you've seen first basemen before, especially in big moments. Yeah. They'll dive to the bag. I know, of course you don't want to get hurt, but this is the World Series Game 5. I didn't like the effort. I'm telling you, over and over again, you watch that. That effort was not. That was lazy. Yeah. That was a Gleyber Torres lazy play right there. That's what Gleyber would do. And Cole, was just pointing. I didn't like that. He's got to at least. I think Mookie would have beat him, but you got to at least run and try to be there. Yeah.
Well, I think if Cole gets the jump right away, like you're kind of supposed to, I think they get him. I mean, I think that's the key element of it, right? Is the fact that he did one step, pulled up, and then decided to go when he realized that Rizzo wasn't going to. I don't know, get there or was planning on tossing it. I don't know what, but also, again, going back to the Rizzo thing, like, the fact he kind of did like a walk first step, too, to go to the bag is just like, I don't know. Lazy's accurate. I don't know what the hell is going through the mind at that point. You know, I don't know. Yeah, let's get into maybe some now stuff after the fact here of the World Series here with the final couple minutes we got. I don't want to spend too much on full-fledged off-season stuff right now. I think the plan for that is going to be in a couple weeks where we can fully look at stuff when players become more available. You get a better sense of the lay of the land for what the off-season is really going to be like. Let's start with Aaron Boone. The early indications appear to be he's going to be back next year. The Yankees will exercise the option on him. It's tough because I've been a self-proclaimed and definitely, you'll back this portion up of it, Kyle. I've been a Boone defender for the most part. The tough part I struggle with is the Yankees are going to be, at worst, perceived contenders next year, unless something insane happens, as I call it. If they come out of the gate bad, you can't be firing the manager in this situation if you bring him back, because that's something that should have been crossed in the offseason at that point. And that's where I worry about this, where my concern is something I've said on here, it's something I've said to you off air, it's something I've said to a lot of people, period, is the main issue to me necessarily isn't exactly Aaron Boone. It's Brian Cashman. And I just think that unless a change of voice in the front office happens, it's just going to be another yes man in the dugout in my mind. Now, certain things can change with that person in the dugout, right? You mentioned the laziness and stuff like that. Boone's got to hold these guys more accountable at the end of the day, right? And I get being a player's coach, and I get that he has a really good relationship with guys, and in certain spots he does hold these guys accountable, right? Like he benching Glaber, for example, at the one point. But, that's the only true example I can think of off the top of my head from even the past couple of years, really. Holding a guy accountable isn't sitting at the press conference after the game, right, and slamming the desk and tell him that it's right there in front of us. That's not accountability. And that's where I worry about if Boone should continue on as the manager of the team. And in that sense, I don't think so. And the tough part for the Yankees in this sense, and this is a bit of a, I know the way some people might take what I'm about to say in a very wrong way, but that's the double-edged sword of being the Yankees this year and making it to a World Series, is if you are going to make the change, you're already behind the eight ball, because the best manager available in my mind is already gone. And I don't think the Yankees would go after Terry Francona because it kind of flies in the face of exactly what they're trying to do in their eyes. But, the White Sox got one of the guys who have been tabbed as, quote-unquote, the next generation in Will Venables. And the other guys available, at least knowingly available, I don't know if they exactly fit what the Yankees want anyway. So I get why they maybe want to ride with Boone again. I just don't think in the current state it's the right move right now.
Well, I think they should let him go just because I'm so tired of the fans saying it's always Aaron Boone's fault. So let's just get rid of him. Let's get rid of him. Let's bring in someone else who, again, is going to be the same damn manager. He's going to back his players up like Boone did and make pretty much the same decisions, follow the analytics, and use, the front office and the other coaching staff to make decisions. And it's going to be the same thing. It's just going to have a different name and a different guy standing on the top step of the dugout.
Right.
But fans don't understand that. So let's do it. Let's get rid of him. Let's bring in that other guy that everyone wants. And we'll see, the same results. And then I wonder what they're going to blame next. Like, when is it ever the players? It's so funny in sports. It's always the manager. It's always the coach. As if Boone was out there dropping the fly ball. Like, are you kidding me? I'll just never understand that. Yes, his game one decision was terrible. You got to bring in Tim Hill. You just have to. With his ground ball percentage, he's the reason you even got there. He pitched 49 innings. But aside from that, if you really look at the postseason, like the ALCS, the ALDS, Boone actually managed really well.
Yeah.
He pushed all the right buttons. Maybe you could probably maybe question that one John Birdie start in Cleveland when he made a couple errors at first and went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Rizzo would have gave you more than 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts and 2 errors. But other than that, if you look at his bullpen decisions and what he did with the lineup in those first 2 series, it's probably his best postseason series he's ever managed. Again, the opponents, everyone's going to say, well, the opponents weren't good. Oh, really? Cleveland wasn't good? Like, let's be real here. But yeah, I'm down for a change. I like Boone. I think he should stay because it's pointless to bring in another guy like we talked about. But let's make the change so all these fans can stop saying Aaron Boone. That's where I'll leave it at.
Well, that's my thing with it too. Is like I've been the one kind of pounding the drum on it, and I put it as a more blunt way than you. I think it's just a meat shield for Cashman down there, and that's the part I worry about. Is like if it happens, and I don't mean to disparage the guy, right? But like, there's a reason why they brought in Brad Ausmus as the bench coach this year, right? Like, let's just call it what it is. Because we know what Ausmus is about. We've seen it in his stops in Detroit and in Anaheim. Like, we know exactly what the plan's going to be for that. Like, that's where that yes man falls in. That's why, to me, like, the only guy I feel like you could have gone after is like Terry Francona, but he just doesn't fit the mold for what Cashman thinks the Yankees should be. You know, Francona's going to do his own thing, more or less. He believes in analytics. We know that for a fact. But at the end of the day, he's going to make his own decisions and do his own thing. And that doesn't fly with the front office at the moment. That's for sure. Yeah. I think part of it for me, too, is I just viewed what the Yankees kind of did to Girardi, and, like, that's why I just think, like, something still may happen in that sense, right? Like it wasn't, at the end, it wasn't Girardi's fault. Much like in this sense, a lot of it probably really isn't even Aaron Boone's fault either. It's tough to view it because it's a sideways slant on 5 games out of 100 and whatever the Yankees ended up at this year, 179 or whatever the hell it is, 78, right? Like, it's tough. I don't know. Look, I'm not pretending like I have the answer either. It's just one of those things where, let's look at it this way, Kyle. Hypothetically, they get Soto, they pretty much run everything back. Like, there's got to be more of like in my mind, a gas pedal feel. And I just don't know who fully brings that, whether a change would make that happen or not. Like, I view it in a different set of eyes than some of the people already kind of talking about it.
Yeah, this is going to be definitely a different topic down the road, and a lot it's probably going to take a while for him to make a decision. But I really, truly don't believe Juan Soto is going to be a Yankee again. I think the money is just, it's not going to be enough. And another team that he thinks, has a potential of making a run in the postseason will be where he signs. And I just don't think the Yankees will be that team. I definitely think he enjoyed his time. He'd love to play with Aaron Judge, but I think in the end, it's all on the money. And I'm just not confident. I mean, they barely got the Aaron Judge deal done. I mean, Think about it. Hale had a call late night on vacation to get it done. I know Hale will be involved again for sure. But this guy is going to need a lot of money, and I'm not sure the Yankees really do it. I think it's definitely going to at least start with a 7. I don't know what you think. I think it's at least 7 something.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure 7. I think I would be really surprised if it's a 6. I can put it to you that way.
And then if say they do make that move, I mean, Glaber's a free agent, and you got a couple other relievers that are free agents, but what can you really do? You're giving all that money. Like, how are you gonna fix other holes? Where if they don't sign him, then they can make multiple moves. But again, I want Soto back. If I had to pick right now, I don't think he's coming back. And it has nothing to do with the World Series loss. I think it's just the money.
So, yeah, I mean, well, I think he could come back no matter what. I mean, the Dodgers obviously have worked that loophole in with Ohtani's contract that anything's possible. Yeah, I don't know. If Soto doesn't come back, the Yankees need to, frankly, do what I call an all-out blitz on the other free agents.
Which they never done.
No, and that's the thing, right?
Besides maybe Garrett Cole, you can include.
My pipe dream, more or less, is that Christian Walker is a New York Yankee next year. And I'm not making it sound like that means I don't want Juan Soto. I'm just saying, for sure, if Juan Soto's gone, I think you gotta go and get Christian Walker, more or less, right? You gotta make sure you get those next in line guys. But you bring up a good point. In this now 15-plus year run following 2009, how often have the Yankees done that? Pretty much next to nothing. You brought up Garrett Cole. I'll allow maybe Rodon. I'll allow the Rodon name. Other than that, Curtis Granderson maybe via the trade. But, that wasn't a free agent signing, so it's
Yeah, and then on top of that, I know it's a little different discussion, but they have the most underwhelming trade deadlines of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, when has Ryan Cashman really made a big splash at the deadline? So basically what you see them make in the offseason is really their team.
Yeah.
And then they always say, it's so funny, you could probably pull up quotes every year. Well, we're getting these guys back from injury, so it's basically like a new guy on the roster. We got him back healthy. Because think about it. Yes, they made the World Series and they lost in 5, but look back at the trade deadline. Every single guy they picked up, other than Leiter Jr.
To me, I'll one up you. Remember back in spring training, we were talking about how we really would have preferred to see the Yankees go out and get one more bullpen piece, and the literal Aaron Boone quote was, "Well, Tommy Kahnle's going to be coming back soon."
Yep.
It's insane.
That's what I mean. Insane. It's how the hope for me is just for someone that watches every game and every year, and it's with Cashman's decision making with the roster, and then the whole postseason we can't hit factor. I don't really know why you should have hope. I mean, for real, I think I think I just need to stop caring. If they aren't gonna care to the extreme, even though they'll say they will, but if they did, their actions would back it up.
Yeah.
Why should the fans?
That's
the
fair.
fans spend so much money and time into the team, and I mean, for example, like we just said, they can't go out and have a good trade deadline. What?
Couple quick hits here before we get out of here. I know for me, I was kind of hoping at the one point they would just get swept because I think it would have been more of a wake-up call in the offseason, and I just now feel like it's not going to be the case, more or less.
Well, everyone's
a similar feeling or not.
Yeah, everyone said that it would have been embarrassing to get swept, which I definitely was with them. But I'm more embarrassed about last night. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, maybe you could have saw a couple innings if you pulled up the White Sox highlights from this year of where they made bad plays like that in the field. But overall, I mean, when can you think of a major league team doing that in the same inning? I can't even recall out of all the games I've watched. So, and honestly, yeah, I mean, I guess getting swept wouldn't have been, I mean, it's embarrassing, but I'm not kidding. I think last night was worse. I really do. With the players that made the errors, too, makes it even worse. Yeah. This wasn't just Gleyber Torres, botching the ball like we've seen all year, led the league in, errors. This was your superstar, Aaron Judge, who started it all. And like I said, Gold Glove winners. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. Last thing, haven't discussed it. We had a couple of varying degree fan interference issues this World Series, obviously. I'm kind of shocked, and I don't know how it's fully going to come out. And I don't know if you know any different than I do. the incident with Yankee Stadium and the Yankee fans with Mookie Betts. Again, I felt like probably some people were trying to jump the gun. I personally have a hard time believing that they were going to be allowed back in for Game 5, let alone in the future. But it kind of appears that that was going to be the case. Look, I don't know how to put this in a respectful manner necessarily in this sense, but like, there's a reason why I have always had the personal feeling of like athletes should be allowed to go back at the fans more or less. And that's a classic case of it, right? And now it really reiterates, I think, a lot of stereotypes amongst fans towards the Yankee fan base. It is what it is. Certainly a lot of people don't do anybody else any favors. And now I almost have now a worse problem in a weird way with the glorification of them still. Like I shouldn't be surprised, frankly, that like Barstool more or less had them on and kind of ran with them and stuff like that. So I don't know. And then, John Boy glorifying them as well in the moment. It left a really, awful taste is probably an understatement, in my mouth in the whole situation.
Well, I don't think I'm really surprised by both of them, kind of laughing and making fun of it, because they're just trying to make money with clips, and they're going to make a lot of money on YouTube, and Twitter pays out for creators. So that's really why a lot of these clips are out there. They draw attention, and they're drawing millions of views, especially Dodgers fans. Definitely wasn't right what the guy did. But based on his interview with Barstool and what he said, how he's been a season ticket holder for a while, the security loves him and talks to him regularly, and I guess there's been other incidents in the past where they haven't kicked him out. I guess fans were complaining that he stands during playoff games or something, and he kept doing it over and over again. The security doesn't kick him out. So it sounds like, and again, remember, Major League Baseball was the one that wanted him banned at first. The Yankees didn't say they wanted him banned at first. So what I think is going to happen here is I think he'll be banned for a little bit, but I don't think he's banned forever, because he's the season ticket holder and because the security that ended up taking him out is basically really good friends with him. I think they're going to do something, make up something behind the scenes where he's going to definitely eventually be allowed back in.
All right.
And I guess the thing is, too, with the whole thing, what if the guy changed seats and used like a friend's email to purchase these tickets in the future and change his look? How can you really, out of 40,000+ people, really enforce a ban in a stadium? I've always wondered that. They say that, but in reality, isn't that person actually coming back at some point with a different look and different name? Like,
probably.
When you're coming in with tickets in a group of 3, say that I have the tickets and I'm going to swipe my ticket for you. They're not going to know your name. So see, that guy can definitely get back in. So being banned from a stadium is not actually being banned, because you can find ways in easily.
What does banned mean?
So, yeah, I don't know. It was stupid what he did. Everyone thought that was going to be the turning point in the series. This guy deserves a ring if they go on and win. And I think that's so stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a dumb thing to do.
Yeah. All right. So I think we'll get out here on that note, Kyle. So we won't do a podcast next week. We'll be back, though, in a couple weeks. Like I said, once the dust settles a little bit more, get a real lay of the land, we get some awards rolling out, we'll be able to do more of a broader wrap-up for the Yankees, the Mets, and, of course, Rochester and Syracuse. So appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening all season. Off next week, back at it the week after that. Make sure you catch the podcast here on FingerLakes1.com, the F1 YouTube channel, all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Amazon Music. Back again in a couple weeks. We'll talk again later, everybody.